Charity Stars is a website that auctions items for good causes, and among these items you can often find football shirts. Things get really pricey, so I never really buy from here, but I'm still always checking for Roma shirts, and I recently came across a Nikola Zalewski signed shirt auction. I had to look through the pictures and auction description, and Zalewski's signature aside, I'd be very inclined to believe that the shirt itself is counterfeit. Now, I made a video on things to look out for when trying to differentiate between authentic and counterfeit shirts for Roma's 2021-2022 New Balance kits, and like I mentioned in that video, this year it can get very difficult when the fakes are well made. The pictures of this one, however, showcase a shirt with tons and tons of inconsistencies, so I thought I'd make a video and let's check them out together. First of all, like I mentioned in other videos, the name set looks slightly off in terms of color, font, and quality. These are minute differences though, and you'd really need it in your hands to know for sure. What's clearly wrong though is the Hyundai sponsor right below the name set. The color is completely wrong. It shouldn't be bright red. It should actually be the same exact dark maroon red type color that the name set is in. The positioning is arguably dodgy as well, especially compared to the original I have on screen, where the Hyundai sponsor is placed lower on the backside of the shirt. You'll also notice that at the very bottom there is no black tag, which if you remember from my previous video on these shirts, should present itself in the middle, and it should say New Balance Dry or NB Dry on the outside and La Lupa on the inside. Finally, another minor detail appears to be at the back of the neck. It's obviously hard to tell for sure from this picture, but the colors seem off compared to the original, even when accounting for lighting, and the AS Roma carved out letters presents themselves looking like they are in red, whereas in the original, they are clearly the color blue, exactly like the sleeves. In the next picture, where we can see they are showing the front side of the shirt, at first glance the colors once again seem off compared to the original. I know you can make the case that lighting plays a role, but to me there is a limit to how much difference it could really make. The nail in the coffin for me in this picture is undebatable when looking at the badge. The shirt auctioned clearly has it off-centered and really poorly made. The original is perfectly centered in the middle of the circle, and the digital bit sponsor also looks slightly oversized, and the blue and red diagonal stripe across the shirt also looks way too thick relative to the original. Once again, in the next picture, the off-centered badge looks really poor, and the Serie A patch raises the question relative to the auction description, where it says this shirt was made available to the soccer player for the UEFA Champions League 2018-2019 season. I don't know what's worse here, the fact that they call it soccer, the fact that they got the season wrong, or the fact that they think we were playing Champions League football with this shirt and with the Serie A patch on the sleeve. We then have another picture of the backside which confirms the wrong color of the Hyundai sponsor, which by the way should not even be present for shirts worn or prepared for European games, which they claim this was, even though it obviously has a Serie A patch. And it also confirms that the AS Roma on the back of the neck is in the red looking font, when again it should be in a blue. They then show a close-up of the sizing tags on the inside of the neck, which is really useful for this video. Like I mentioned before on the channel, although both fakes and authentic for this season are both made in Thailand, we can compare the font and the spacing to sort of try and catch any inconsistencies. If you look at the L above GB, US, or Euro, you can clearly see it isn't centered accordingly, unlike how it would be in all the originals. Also, although I don't have an L myself, I find it interesting that my XL store-bought jersey is a 2XL in Asia, but this one being an L is also a 2XL in Asia. Not only does that make no sense, but notice how they write XXL, whereas the original never does. They only say 2XL or 3XL. The last thing worth mentioning right below the sizing tags is the stitching. As you can see, there is a difference in the stitching between the item that they're selling and then the original that I bought from the store, where you can clearly see that it should be in blue and not in yellow. These are obviously extremely fine details, but definitely worth noting considering that when you put everything together, from the details of the neck, the lack of the La Lupa tag on the bottom, the wrong color on the Hyundai sponsor, the off-centered badge, so on and so forth, it's hard to call this shirt anything but counterfeit. Now, I'm not sure what their protocol is, and I understand the value comes from the signature. I just found it interesting that they'd auction off an arguably counterfeit shirt, and I felt like this was a good opportunity to make a video to show how the details I talked about in my previous videos about these season's kits can be applied, so you can look at every case-by-case shirt that is posted online and come to a conclusion on whether you feel like it would be safe to buy or not. And obviously, it goes without saying that this is irrelevant if you don't care whether the shirt is real or not, and you just care about the signature, or even for shirts that aren't signed, you don't really care. You just want any shirt, real or fake, then I guess this obviously doesn't matter to you. Hopefully, though, this was useful, and I'll catch you in the next one.